All right, guys, welcome back to episode 2 of the Reddit Diaries. So when we left off yesterday, we were just about to start creating shares and get some users into Active Directory. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with that. And actually, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join this workstation to the domain and install the remote server admin tools so that I stop bouncing between servers as much and we're just in one pane of glass, as it were. So let's get that started first. And we'll jump into terminal. And I should bring up Notepad as well. Yes. Because I can almost got it. Okay. Let's fix that up just a bit, like so. Let's come in here. We got word wrap on, Zoom. Okay, so let's see. We need to add computer, and I need to zoom in some more. So that seems good, right? All right. Real quick, let's check the host name, lab demo 1. Yeah, I'm not going to rename it. Okay, so what do we need after add computer? That's right. We need domain. Yeah. If you know the answer, just go right ahead and say them. And our domain is galactic public.org. All right. Now, what else? If we leave it here, what happens? We'll join the computer, or the computer will join the domain, right? And it will go where in Active Directory? Do you remember? That's right. It'll go right here to the default computers container. Do we want that? I mean, is it the end of the world? Not really. So we can get away with it here. So I think I'm just going to leave that. And I'm going to put hack restart on at the end. Copy the whole thing. Come over here to my terminal and paste that. Run. And it's going to ask me for my credentials. So we LAN administrator. Now, when you're doing this and logging in this way, you can log in with the LAN /administrator. You can also log in with like administrator at, and then the full, LAN dot. Speaking of which, I got this wrong. Close. Yeah, go ahead and error out. Oh, you guys stopped me before I did this. Because our domain is actually lan.galacticrepublic.com. Is the Active Directory domain that we're currently using. Not galacticrepublic.org. That's the internet-facing domain. Yeah. All right. Once again, select it all, copy it, come back over here, paste, and so yeah, we can type in LAN /administrator /administrator, or type in our password, and that works. But you're not limited to that really. So we can do LAN /administrator for the username. We can also do administrator at lan.galactic. I know how to type .org, but this is more the type out, right? This is also why I chose the smaller NetBIOS name of just LAN instead of having to type that whole thing out. So you can do those because, well, not in this case. We could also just technically get away with administrator here, but to avoid any potential confusion, like it somehow wanting to try to default to the local administrator of the Windows 11 machine, I just go ahead and put the domain in. That way it's like, there's no question, right? We're very deliberate. And if it complains about that, well, it's got its own issues. Just saying. Okay, so now that we've got all that in, clean that up, come over here, click OK, and oops. Accessed. Oh, that's right. So, yeah. Once again, we were bitten by the "you need elevated privileges" bug. So let's try this again. I'm going to hold down Shift, right click on terminal, select run as administrator. Tell it yes. Now you can do a run as command, and or you could just always kind of run it as administrator, but I try not to do anything with elevated privileges if I can get away with not doing it. It's annoying. I have to go back and do some steps, but I'm also not running rampant with permissions that I shouldn't be using and potentially do things that could cause me problems. So we'll paste that back in, do this again for the third time. Third time's a charm, right? And success. Yay. So if I come over here, refresh, ta-da. Now I can drag this over into IT. Do I want to get granular between servers and workstations? I'm kind of thinking I do. It's more typing, but it's also cleaner. Right? Okay, so workstations. So now I can come back over to the computers container. I can take my new machine, drop it over here. Windows will complain that I could break things if I do this. I know that. Just tell it not to tell you again. Click yes, and it will move it over where it needs to go. One other thing here real quick is we could probably debate all day whether droids are actually users or computers. I'm going to treat them as users, and I'm not going to have a droid's computer OU here because that would be kind of weird. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Confirm it. And there we go. It just feels weird to me, right? And whilst we're doing that, we're still rebooting. So I can come over to file server 1 and start prepping for my shares. Now, storage on the D drive, we're empty. We're going to have to create some folders here. And yes, I can right click. I can go to hover over new, come up to folder, and I can create public. I'm going to change the view to tiles, just a preference on my part. If you prefer any of the other views, by all means use them. I, for some reason, just like the tiles. And then of course I can go in here and I can rinse and repeat. Click new folder, name the folder. Here you go. Or we can talk to PowerShell. Yeah. So let's see. Before I talk to PowerShell though, let's move that over there and open up Notepad again. and go to view, not view, format, word wrap. We're going to change the font to what? A nice 18. Is that what I used yesterday? That seems a bit bigger than what I used yesterday. Doesn't matter. Okay, so the command that we need here is new item. Then we need to tell it the item type. And in this case, it is a directory. There we go. Now we need two other things here. We need the path and we need the name. So for path, we're gonna nestle it right here in public. So the path is going to be D public, and then I don't need a one there. Then the name, let's see. So we're gonna have a Jedi folder. Now this also goes back to what I was talking about yesterday about juggling the order of the different parameters within the command that you're running, right? So because we're going to stay in public, the next command, we're just going to change the name, but we're going to stay in the path. After that, we're going to create subfolders within like Jedi and Senate, and we can modify the path once, then we just change the name, and we can use the keyboard shortcuts for this a little bit, or you can type them all out here, or in an equivalent. VS Code works as well. Matter of fact, we'll do that. So Control Shift Home will select everything that I currently have from the end. Copy that. Come back over here and right click. And of course it's mad at me, but so we'll do it again. We'll just copy, select PowerShell, then right click. Okay, so now we've got our Jedi, right? We got that right here. Let me move this up so you can actually see when they're created. Now, I didn't put a carriage return after Senate, so it stopped. Otherwise, it would have run it, and it's not a big deal. Just enter, and then, yep, there you go. Now we have Senate. I'm going to change the view here to tile again. Tiles. All right, again, just because I can. Personal preference. Now, if I use the up arrow on the keyboard, and I come back over here and I change the path, so I just add, say, Jedi at the end. Now I can create my subfolders. So we'll go into Jedi here so you can watch the magic as it happens, right? So let's see. We need a folder for what? Jedi. That's not how you spell it. Masters, right? Maybe a folder for Jedi Knights. Because we know they keep things from each other, right? Right. You know, masters have knowledge that knights don't. Knights have knowledge that Padawans don't. Knights may have information that masters don't, and they just don't share it with them. You know. And let's go ahead and create Padawans folder. There we go. Once again, change the view. I can make everything this way, but I don't necessarily want every folder to use the tiles. Kind of depends on the content that's in it. So that's why I haven't gone ahead and just changed them all. Did I not change that? I thought I changed it. Anyway. All right. Now we can up arrow again. We just need to come over here, change this to Senate, press the end key to go to the end line, come back, clear this up. And let's see here. We should have a senators folder, right? So actually, I'm going to hold off on that because I want to do it from my newly joined Windows 11 workstation. Okay, so this is the first time we're logging in since we joined the domain, obviously other user. Now, if you look, you'll see that it wants to sign in to LAN here, which is what we want. However, I do want to point out that if you type administrator, it's going to switch to the local machine. It will do this even on your servers, and it'll switch to local administrator, except obviously a domain controller, because the local administrator is the domain administrator account. So it can be kind of a hassle depending on what your net BIOS name is. If it's long and you got to type that whole thing and then slash administrator to clear that up, if you want to log in as the domain administrator, which you should not be doing, by the way, on a regular basis, then you have to type that all in. It's rather annoying. It's kind of fine if it saves it. There are times where it just seems to not want to save it no matter what you do. So I created a user account that's the equivalent of the domain administrator, just not named administrator. So it should be IT admin, I believe. I think that's it. I have slept since then, so I could be wrong. No, we are correct. I am correct. You are wrong. Wait. Is that? Nah, never mind. Everybody's right. Okay, so we're going to clear all this up, actually. So we're going to get out of our server. We're going to practice what I preach. I'm going to practice what I preach. And I'm going to remotely administrate my servers. Not going to save that like we should be doing. Not necessarily from the start, but we're good enough now that we've got a workstation joined. We should be able to manage a majority of everything we need without going back into the servers once Windows 11 gets done with its thing. Now you'll notice that I've only done it on file server 1. I have not done anything on file server 2 yet. And it's going to be a minute before I do that. You'll see why as we go. Okay, so first things first, we need to go to System. So if we right click on the Windows icon on the Start button here and go up to System. Now it, by default, it takes us to System About. It's not really where we want to go. So come over here, click on System, right? Scroll down. And we're going to go to optional features. Okay. Then right here under view or edit optional features, we're going to click on view features. Answer yes to the prompt because we do want to make changes. Okay. So we can search for additional features here. And before we do that, we're just going to let's take a look and see what additional features we have from this option. Okay, there's a bunch of fonts, some graphics tools, a lot of stuff I'm not interested in until we get here. RSAT or remote server administration tools. These are what we want. So we go through, not worried about the RIP listener. We've got Active Directory certificate service tools. Not worried about it. Active Directory domain services and lightweight directory service tools. That is a yes. So we're going to put a tick mark there. Not expand it like I did because I've clicked in the wrong spot. We don't. So our DHCP server is currently living on the firewall. So we can't manage that using Windows DHCP tools per se because it's not going to give us the feedback that Windows wants. So we're not going to use that. I am going to install the DNS server tools though. Bridging LLDP tools, not anything we're using right now. Failover clustering tools, we're currently not using failover clustering, so no. File services. I'm going to skip it for now because I want to go back and look at it after. But it also has a dependency of the RSAT server. You know what? Actually, no. I am going to tick it. No, I'm going to leave it off. I want to see this. Group policy management tools. That's a yes. IP address management. IPAM client. No, we're not using that right now. Network controller management tools. No. Network load balancing tools. Again, not anything we have a need for right now. Azure Stack HCI. No. Remote access management tools. No. Remote desktop services. Don't need that either. Server manager. Yes. Why? Because when you're a server admin, server manager is your best friend, or at least one of them. Definitely in the top 5. Server migration service management tools. Nope. I have personally never used this tool to migrate anything off a server. There are other ways to do it that I consider to be cleaner and faster without having to install yet another thing. So let's see. RSAT storage replica module. No. System insights module for Windows PowerShell. Nope. Volume activation tools. No. Windows Server update service tools. Negative. And that's it. We don't need SNMP. And we're now out of all of the things. So let's go ahead, click add. Watch the paint dry while it installs these things. Now is a good time while we're waiting for this to go, and I need users in Active Directory and I need some groups. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So under Senate, I'm going to need some more OUs. Let's bust out our handy dandy friend PowerShell. Move that over there. Actually, kind of running out of real estate here. No. Actually, move this over here, right? And we resize Notepad. That works. We're not really doing anything that requires Windows File Explorer, so we're all right. Okay. I have a list, or at least an idea, right? So to expand upon our PowerShell expertise, we're going to come in here. We're going to create a variable. We're going to call it Senate underscore OUs. Now, how you choose to name your variables is pretty much up to you. There's the standard, camel case where, most of the stuff is going to be, they're going to say, do this, right? Problem is this blends together. So when you're reading, like especially somebody else's code, or if I go back and I'm reading this, it kind of takes me a minute to kind of follow, and I've got to break it apart, right? I've got to kind of go through the mental gymnastics to kind of figure out what it is that I was really trying to name this variable. Where if I put an underscore in, which is a little closer to say Python, then I can look at it and I go Senate OUs. Oh, okay. Organizational units for the Senate, right? You can put a dash in here, whichever one you really kind of prefer, or whichever one, somebody higher up the command chain wants you to do it. If you're in a group and there's an accepted way that they do those, then conform to that. You don't have to fight the tide, as it were, or the current. But if you're writing, sample ones for yourself, short little scripts or whatever, name them to something, because you're going to save them, right? You're going to add all of these to your toolkit so that as you need to do something later, you don't have to essentially reinvent the wheel. You don't have to type all this stuff out. You just pull up a script. You may have to edit a couple of things here and there, and then you're off and run it. So you're much more efficient. You're getting your job done faster, which we all like. And you have time for more cat videos or watching However, I am going to lose the cat videos. I'm fully aware of this. All right, so we need an array. And in PowerShell, that's an at, open parentheses, and close parentheses. And some of you may be screaming right now going, why are you doing this in Notepad? Why are you not doing it in the PowerShell ISE, right? The integrated, or IDE actually is more of an integrated. And I can open this up and we can use that. Problem is Microsoft is no longer continuing development of this. So it's going to go away in the future. And some version of server, it's no longer going to be there. I highly suspect that they will integrate it in some shape with VS Code. And actually, since we get a PowerShell window with this, I can just do it this way. And resize this, and then I don't have to worry about weird real estate, right? So you have the option to do this, and you can, it's every bit, well, it's not every bit. It's similar to VS Code in that I can type in the scripting on the left, and then I can run the terminal window. I can even move the terminal window if I want down here. So then I can make it look a little bit closer to Visual Studio Code. You can also, if you really want to, however, I try not to do this on servers. Try to limit any browsing that I do on a server to something that I know and something that's not going to go wonky. I don't consider it a good practice. There are times where it's just easier to do it. Like download a file because, you know, you want to download, you need to download like an ISO, right? It's a little bit easier to download the ISO here, depending on what all's going on. Like if you're remoted into a client server, you need an ISO for something, you're building a VM, you can just download directly this way because you may be using a remote tool like Log Me In, TeamViewer, something like that, where you may not have the ability to paste it in, like just copy the ISO from, say, your desktop and drop it in there. So you can do it that way. We can also go to dev.vscode.com. No. But you can go to the browser version of VS Code. Code.visualstudio.com is not the one I want. It's vscode.dev. Sorry. I knew dev was in there somewhere. Okay, so we can use this way, right? Close the chat GBT. We can come in here. We can create a new file, which is a new text file. Then it wants the language. So you can PowerShell it. You cannot use the terminal from here, though. Right? So if I come in here, I go, say, view terminal. I lied. It's right here. No, I'm not. I didn't lie. Terminals are not available in the web editor. Continuing environment that run code like CodeSpace or VS Code desktop. So no, we can't do it here that way. We can type our code and we can paste it in, but we're not going to do that either. Because again, we really shouldn't be on this in the first place. And we're still adding things. Slow. This can be a very slow process. So, you know, again, go get yourself, you know, start it, get a cup of coffee, get a beverage, go hang out by the water cooler, talk to some colleagues, you know, load up cat videos. Whichever you want. Okay, so back. We have our variable and I had my array started. So I'm going to continue with set array. Need tab over. All right, so what do we need? How do we want to break this out? So we can lump all the senators in, but senators are going to have like assistants and that sort of thing. And we know the senators are all from, much like current senators, they're going to be from their planet and in the Star Wars universe, or from their state. They're going to have, again, their assistants, aides, gophers, whatever you want to call them. So we can break it down by home planet and kind of group them all that way logically, because that's all Active Directory really is. It's a way to logically structure the information to make sense to us. And we can also grant rights and permissions to the users, or to, computer accounts users. We can grant rights and permissions to things within Active Directory as well, but it's primarily more of an organizational deal, much like File Explorer. So if we do home, we think back to episode 1. What do we have? We have Alderaan mentioned in episode 1. So in the array, just like every other array in every other programming language, right? We've got our string. Now to add the next one, go ahead and put our comma in. And I'm going to do this on a new line. I prefer it that way. You can run it all together. Again, the only wrong way is the way that's uncomfortable for you, right? Really? So we start the next one. What I see, Naboo factored in heavily in episode 1, right? That, like, the whole movie. What else have we got? Senators. We had I don't remember. You know what? 2 may be fine. We don't want to go overkill. We don't want to get ridiculous. Oh, wait. We got to put in Coruscant, right? Okay. So now we have the array. Now we need to create an organizational unit for each item in the array. And our command for that, first off, we need to step through the array, right? So if we do for each Senate OUN, Senate OUs, oops. That was weird. Oh, that's why, because I misspelled it. That's why I didn't auto-complete it for me. Senate OUs, right? Okay, and again, this is a personal choice when I'm writing scripts. I like the curly brace on the next line. I don't like it here. I don't know why. It just messes with me when I'm trying to read code. Go ahead and close my curly bracket, right? Braces. Hello. Tab over so that I'm properly indented. This is kind of the downside to this PowerShell ISE, is it won't necessarily format the code for you. You will have to go in and, like, indent things and put in curly braces and all these other nifty shiny bits. Okay, so for each Senate OU and Senate OUs, what do we want to do? We want to create a new AD organizational unit. All right, and we need to give it a name. Now, the nice thing about using this in Visual Studio Code to write it is, of course, it starts to give you the options, right? So we see right here the different options that we can use for new organizational unit, right? We could go with city, country, credential, description, display name, so on and so forth. If we don't go with display name, it's just going to go with the name that we give it, which is fine. So, because we're trying to find that fine line of typing just enough, but not so much. Because let's face it, you're going to do a lot of typing as a server admin, right? So let's go with name. The name is going to be the current item in the array, which would be Senate underscore OU, not OUs. Okay, and what else do we got here? We need the path, right? Yep, we need a path. And we're going to need... I think that's it. I think that's all we need is a name and a path. We don't need the server because we're running it on the server. So PowerShell is going to figure that out. Right now, if we're running this from like our workstation without a PowerShell remote session, then we would need to give it a computer name of one of the domain controllers we want to use. We can use either. We're not tied to just the one. But since we're here, okay, so path. So we type in path. And then again, we have to work from bottom up to the domain root. So organizational unit is going to be Senate. Again, if I can type it. Then where do we go from Senate? We take a step up. And we're in users. So Senate, then users. Okay. Then the next organizational unit up is Galactic. You know what? I'm going to change this because Galactic-Republic is a lot to type out. And apparently my fingers can't get around typing it that way necessarily. So then we are, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen like you can see my screen, but you can't. So we're here, and then we need to go up to the domain level, which is LAN dot. And this is easy enough, really. So we switch to DC, and now we have to progress in order, right? So we need LAN, and then dot, which would mean a comma, DC next bit, comma, DC next bit. And I need to put the comma in first. And your brain's probably still stuck on the fact that I have Republic here and I haven't changed it in Active Directory yet. And you're like, your code's going to blow up, dummy. And you're right. If I ran it this way, it would. But I'm not going to run it that way. Because I'm going to come over here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to rename it first. As much joy as you would have gotten from watching me blow up my code, we haven't quite done that. All right, so this should be all we need. So if I run it, and honestly, here's another thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to comment out the other two. I only want to run it once, and I want to run it to show you something very specific. So I'm going to run it. We should not blow up. So let's try that. Did it work? It did work. Look at me do stuff. Okay, so we've created the one, but this string here, once you start adding in a bunch of switches, right? So if we wanted to also do display name, right? Name. And then I go in and add something else. Like I want to add a country, a city, protect from accidental deletion. This is actually one I needed to add because without it, we'll go to object and there it is. Again, I have the Active Directory recycle bin enabled. I'm okay with deleting stuff. I can just go back and recover it, right? So I actually do want that. So let's put that in over here. And we're going to false that. So you can see where you start to run out of real estate going left to right, right? And you can wind up on like another line or, you know, if the resolution, like if this is over here, then this starts to run off to the edge and things can get kind of weird and cluttered and just not fun to look at all. You may prefer it that way. I personally don't. So I'm going to introduce you to my good friend, hash tables. These things are great. They are fantastic, and they're going to clean up your code, and you're going to wonder how you ever live life without them, right? So we need to declare it first. So we're going to do it in the for each loop because we're going to change the name every time we cycle through, right? So we're going to create Naboo, and then we're going to run through, we're going to create Coruscant underneath Senate. So the path isn't changing, but the name will be. So if we come in here and we call it new OU, new underscore OU, right? Type in enter. You guys probably can't see that. You're probably screaming at me going, it's so small. And you're right. Let's see, view, zoom in. Is that control plus add? So if I control, there we go. Okay. Let's get that a little right about there. Yeah. My apologies. These are things that you forget about. Okay, so we're creating a hash table here, so we need to declare it as well. So we start with the @ but we open the curly braces. We'll come back, close out our curly braces. Now I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to come up in here, indent in, paste it, press home to go back to the beginning of the line, get rid of the dash, and here I'm going to put in equals. I'm going to come over to path, going to delete the dash there, going to tighten this up, enter again, equals. And I'm going to press N to go to the end of the line because let's face it, navigating with the keyboard, a lot easier than trying to click, and your hand's probably already there anyway, right? So we tighten it up, come back, protected from false delete, or protected from accidental deletion equals false. Okay, and I want a line break here because my OCD says I need a line break there. All right, so now we can type in all of the options we want and we're not running ourselves off the page. And you're probably like, okay, now what? You've got the new organizational unit. How are you going to do that? Well, we can do it this way. Note the @ symbol versus the $sign, right? Because when you do this, it calls the table, the hash table, instead of just a variable. So you need to put the @ there when you're using these. I am going to clean up my commenting in the array. So now we have Naboo, Coruscant. So then we come in, we run the for each, we get the current item that in the array, in this point, in this case, Naboo, then it changes this to Naboo, then it will create a new organizational unit and rinse and repeat, right? So if I press play, I should get 2 OUs that are not protected from accidental deletion. Why? Because I have the AD recycle bin enabled. Yes. Okay, there we go. We got no errors. Fabulous. Now I do have to come over here and refresh. There we go. I have the 2 organizational units. Hash tables, again, are one of my favorite things because I no longer have code that runs way off into somewhere else where I have to try and scroll. And if you've ever tried to scroll in this ISE, you realize that it gets cranky about it quite often. So there you go. Now, I also need it in computers. All right. So I can come down here and I can change computers. I can change this, or no, users. I can change users. Right. So I can change this to computers, but I don't really want to do it that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it kind of that way, but not necessarily. We're going to cut that, and then we're going to go OU underscore path. So we're going to create a variable here, or we're going to look for a variable here that I'm going to create here. OU underscore path equals, there you go. Now I can concatenate string and I can do all these nice, wonderful bits, but that's really not what we're here for. We're here for really kind of quick and dirty. I am going to concatenate it at a little bit here. Now that I've typed it all out, I'm going to create a variable domain, an equal, then I'm going to open up parentheses, then I'm going to get domain, close it, then I'm going to use the dot property, then I'm going to look for distinguished name, like so. Now, just to make sure that I am remembering things correctly, because why would you have a script for this? I'm going to paste this directly down here. And that's why. Get AD domain. That's what I'm missing. My bad. So we go get AD domain, press home to go to the start of the line, shift N to highlight the entire line. Copy it again. Come back in here. Paste it. And the reason I'm doing this is because obviously if I paste it, if I try running it, just the go button up there, then I'm going to run the whole script. I don't want to do that. I want to check this first. Now, if I tell it to tell me what the domain is, there we go. So we have DC equals LAN, comma, DC equals galactic dash republic, comma, DC equals org. Right? So what I can do is come right over here, highlight this whole bit, and then just $, open parentheses, $, domain, close parentheses. I prefer this method, even though newer versions of PowerShell will let you get away with this. But I like kind of the older method because it also gives me a break when I'm looking at the overall code, right? So it gives me a visual break as opposed to just looking for the $, because you can miss it. So I have the two, I have the parentheses. This gets highlighted differently in Visual Studio Code. So it's a little easier for my eye to follow. Just in case you're like, you're doing it wrong. Well, I might be, but I'm doing it my way. All right, so if we press play again, right, we come back up under computers, go to Senate. We have the two because I had the comment out. I forgot to uncomment because I'm an idiot, which means I need to do a multi-line comment. Go to the start of this line, clear that out, and run it again. Why you guys don't tell me these things before I do stupid stuff? You can prevent me from doing it. All right, now we have all three of the OUs here under computers for Senate. Awesome. Let's check in. We're still adding the RSAT manager. Bro. Okay. I don't necessarily need to add the computers one, but I wanted to. Now we can also make this code a little better. We already know how to concatenate because we did it with the domain name. So because we're going to create it in, say, computers and users, we can create another array, right? So then we could just step up through them. Yeah? Actually, this... Let's go there. Let's put it at the top. Let's see. What do we call this? We call this, what, parent OUs? Does that work? Equals, and this is an array, so it's at open parentheses, come down here, close the parentheses, go back up a line, and then we go not some computers. And users, right? Space out there. Okay, so now what we can do is we do a nested for each, right? So if we go in here and we go parent OU in parent OUs, enter because I prefer the curly brace there, and then shift down arrow to select everything here, press tab, right arrow, backspace, and close it. So now what we can do is change this to be the parent OU variable. Like so. Clear all this out. So now we should get, however, because I already have them, I could delete them and create them all again, but no. So did I create them under users? No. So I've got users, I got Yoda. I can dump just everybody in here, but that doesn't organize it very well. I'd have to kind of know who's a master, which you might know. Yes, you can put it in the description, but honestly, like nobody ever uses the description. What do you usually come in here, you go new user, you fill in this bit, you type in the password, you hit OK, there you go. Or you come up here, you right click on a user, you copy, you fill the bit in, put the password in, and there you go, right? So it's right there, the description is, but let's face it, when you're creating a user, you're usually not worried about that. No, description's not in here. Okay, my bad. I lied. Now it is in the Active Directory. So if we go into the Active Directory Administrator Center, right, we come in here. We need to refresh this because it's mad. Actually, we just need to close that all together, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I don't want it bookmarked. I just want rid of it. There we go. Just click on it and it says, hey, it doesn't exist, and cleans it right up for me. All right, thanks. Okay, so I can do it in here, right? So if I come in here and I right click and I go to new user, right? I've got all this. I got first name, middle name, last name, full name, UPN login, SAM account name, password, display name, office, department. I mean, I can do all that here, but again, in the real world, we're not usually worried about descriptions all that much. We just want to get the user created, make sure that they have the permissions they need, they're part of the groups, and go on with our life. So in order to organize it, yeah, we're going to break this. We're going to add the subfolders in. Let's see. Did I cancel? Did I knights? Not knots. Knights. And Padawans? Yes. So now we should step through. We should get our new OUs here and their computers and users. Until I blow up my code. What happened here? An attempt was made with a name that is already in use. Huh? What? All right. Let's see where it blew up, actually. With a name that's already in use. Okay. Yeah. Wait. That's not right. Okay. Sure. Jedi. Parent OU. So we go Jedi. Computers. Underscore Republic. Okay. Then domain. All right. Real quick. Let's copy this. Open a new. Paste it. Because I want to make sure that, oops, no, equals, not underscore, dork. Stop fat fingering things. It's not Friday. Parent OU is, so we go Jedi. Oh, that may be it. Computers. I told you I prefer the method, and then when I put it in here, I didn't actually type the whole thing out because, once again, I am an idiot. Oops, I need a $sign in front of that. Just like so. Okay, so now I want to do this, and then I want to write out the OU path. Clear all this. There we go. Jedi, computers, Republic, LAN. Okay. So maybe we don't blow up. Fingers crossed. There we go. So now if I come back in here, right click and refresh. Well, there's that too. I dumb. Okay, so this is also how to troubleshoot code when you're an idiot and you don't change everything like you're supposed to. Okay, so we need Jedi OU in Jedi OUs. And I know there are some of you sitting over there just laughing. You are welcome. All right, so now that we've got that, and we blew it up again. All right, I need to clear out. Did we make it through computers? How far did we make it? No, we're still at Alderaan. Why are we still at Alderaan? All right, so we're still hanging on to a variable somewhere. Oh, that's why. All right, let's make sure that we have no more Senate OU here. So can we find? Yes. Let's just look for Senate. Not Senate. Okay, cannot find. All right. Now, there we go. Right? Everything should be happy. Yes. Now, if we come over here, everything should be fabulous. Ta-da! All right. Now we're going to move Yoda. Yoda's on the council, so let's move him there. Clear that. That. No. And I'm going to put that out on GitHub real quick. Active Directory. There's org units already there. Create one OU, create OUs MD. What do we got? Computers, groups, users. Okay, so we got base OUs, root OUs, Republic. You know what? It's pretty much already there. There's a little bit more code in there. Much cleaner than this, because it will actually do things like check to see if it exists first, throw the error. You know, there's some error checking in there. So good coding habits as opposed, but most often as a system admin, you're going to kind of slap one together to do what you want. You go in and add all the good habit stuff later, like error checking and, you know, your try, your catches, your finallys, so on and so forth. Because usually at the time you're slapping the script together, you have something that needs to be done. You just need to get it done out of the way. You may or may not go back and fix it later. Doesn't matter. Because once you're done with it, you may be done with it for a while. You may go back and look at it again. Okay, so now we have these. We have Yoda in the thing. I should create some users. Okay, so let's see. In Boo, in episode 1, Palpatine is the senator. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to use first dot last name for the usernames if they have either a first or a last name, or if they have both. If they're like Yoda and they just have the first, I'll use Yoda. If they don't have a first name, we won't use it. Not that I would know, but anyway. Okay, next. Give him password. Not going to make him change it the first time he logs in. Not going to select any of the other ones. Click next. And there we go. So, okay, he's in Naboo. I don't recall him having anybody else. And Alderaan, we have our favorite senator ever, right? Which is Bale and Tilly's. Or Bale? Bale, yeah? Bale. Next. Create his password. Uncheck that. Next and finish. There we go. Coruscant. Coruscant. Was the Chancellor, right? So come in here. I think that's right. If it's not, don't flame me too bad. I will look at it again. Valor. There we go. Finis Valor. Right. And I will probably butcher all of their names. I do apologize in advance. Okay, so that should be good. All right, so we have 3 Senate users. We have one Jedi user. And quite honestly, that's about all the more I want to create for right now. Close this. Are we done? Well, we're done with the 1. Okay, that's weird. See edit features. Okay, so server manager has been added, but none of the other tools have been. Why does it feel like Microsoft broke this? Okay, find. Because it used to be I could collect all, just say, well, you know, take the 4 or 5 that I wanted, while I'm also looking for a tool that I didn't install. Old habits. But DNS isn't installed. Okay. Do this one at a time. Or did it? Okay, that's strange. Because it's there, but it doesn't show that it's been added yet. But DNS isn't here. I don't want to cancel. I want you to do the thing. Why for you don't do the thing? All right, do I have VS Code on this? Visual Studio Code. I do. Let's move that over here for now. Close that. Please wait for operations to complete before closing. Well, I want you to do all the other stuff, which you haven't done, which is rude. Okay, let's go back under view features. See available features. Where's that? Okay, we're just gonna do it one at a time, I guess. I don't know why. All right. What do I want to do? I want to go to a new text file. PowerShell. Okay. Do you want to install the recommended PowerShell extension? Yes. That's still adding things over there. Okay, well, we may just have to manually add the folders since for some reason this is being weird. I don't like it. All right, choose a version of PowerShell. Install PowerShell. Well, let's find out what version of PowerShell we're running. So PS version table. We were on 753. All right. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to leave the terminal down there. Just get rid of that. That. Okay, so we're going to go back real quick. Okay, so use equals at and what was it? It was computers and no, there we go. And users, then Jedi OUs. We could have actually done both. You go for each OU, then for each user base, and then Jedi or Senate, and then do an if statement there. I guess. Probably would have saved me from all the shenanigans, not Jedi. Padawans. Okay, so we've got that. Then we had our for each. Hello. So then we did base OU not capital. In these OUs, right? Next line. And then we did our next for each. Did I OUs? OU, right? Move that. Did I underscore OUs? Open, close curly braces. And then we did our hash table. So we did new underscore OU, creating our hash table this way. Yes. And then name equaled Jedi OU. That's a $sign. That's a hashtag, which is a comment out. No. Name Jedi OU. OU path. You could camel case that one if you wanted to. Oh no, it's just path. It's not OU path. It's just path. My bad. Path equals. Oh, I need to put my domain in here as well. So we need to create a variable domain equals get ad domain. Then the property distinguished name. Yeah. OU equals did I OU? Then OU equals base OU, right? Oh, wait, nope. Because we need to put OU equals Jedi, comma, base OU. So now we're at Jedi Council, Jedi computers. Next up is underscore Republic. Underscore Republic. And then domain. Stop. Oh, that's why it's all upset. Okay. I jumped out of that. Like, okay, so, and actually, so I want to, all right. So because it's a variable, it gets a different color. But to me, for me, this actually stands out more. So you can do it either way, right? You can concatenate and just use the variable name, or you can do the older way of concatenating or inserting a variable into a string and concatenating without doing all the plus and all the other nonsense. Because used to be, if you wanted to concatenate a string like this, right? Oh, I need to, my bad. I apologize. Zoom in, right? So control equal, there we go. Whoa. But when you're trying to watch it in a browser, okay, so yeah, you can already see where you start to kind of run off the end of the line there, depending on what's going on. All right, let's close that. Thank you. All right, so it used to be, if you wanted to concatenate, right, we would have to go in here, and we would have to do this, then plus, then open our parentheses, or actually not open the parentheses, do the variable, plus open parentheses again, close plus don't space plus we would have to do that. And looking at this just makes your brain hurt. So thankfully we don't have to do it that way. You can do it either way. Again, the only wrong way is the way that just doesn't make sense to you. I still prefer this. Probably because, you know, it's just a habit. I've done it that way for a while. Okay, so we had protected from accidental deletion equals false. Now, if you're doing it all in Visual, you know, VS Code, you can line these up. Won't hurt anything. Although I don't know that that makes it any better, but you can do it if you really want to. All right. And then new AD org. Unit, not unite, and new OU. Okay, so there you go. Now you have it in all the pretty colors in Visual Studio Code. And nothing for me to run because I've already done it. And this is still doing the thing. So much to my chagrin, I think I'm going to have to add the Senate manually. No. No, I'm not. Okay, so let's go into File Explorer. I can do it from here. I can't create the shares. I can create the files. I can't necessarily create the shares because I don't have the remote server admin tools. But anyway, okay, so the beautiful thing about every single domain joined computer is they all get a hidden administrative share, right? So in this case, this Windows 11 box, we have C, D, and E. And if I go to one of the servers and I type in / the name of the machine, right? Which is lab demo 01 / again, and then C $, because the hidden shares correspond to the partition or the drive letters that are on the machine. Right. So I can do that and just go there. If I type the name in right or correctly, not right, but if I typed in correctly, which I don't think I did, that's okay. I can find it. Maybe. All right. Well, if you're going to be slow about it, we can just go into command prompt or PowerShell, type in host name, press enter, and there we go. So we got lab demo 01, lab-demo 01, lab-demo 01. Why you got to make a layer admin? Oh, that's why, because it's Windows 11. All right. No. Okay. So let's go digging into this a little bit. I know it's a complete sidetrack thing, and you guys are like, God, are you ever going to get to DFS? And yes. All right. So if we go to network and internet, Da, da, da. Is it under? They keep moving these, or at least it seems like they keep moving these. So one day you'll go in one way and the next day you'll go in the other. Okay, but here's where I want to go. I'm going to go into advanced settings. Da, da, da. Wait for it to pop up. Okay, get rid of the action bar by clicking that right there. Inbound rules. All right, so what I'm looking for is, yeah, this is off. Okay, so if I enable this rule here, file and print sharing SMB in, then there you go. So we can get to the we can get to any administrative share, which happens to correspond to the drive letters on the domain. Lab demo D. Really? Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm really after C, not D in this case. So if I were to do this from this on file server 2 to create a new folder, I can just come in here and go create a new folder. Right? Come back over here. Jump in and there's my new folder. I can do the same thing on FS1 now. I just can't create the shares this way. Okay, delete that, clean that up. Go back there, come over here. Okay, so this should fail because we also have not enabled SMB in on file server 1. So we haven't enabled this firewall rule on FS1, which means that it's going to crash. Oh, that's right. It doesn't have the browser history because I logged in with a new user. That's why we're going through this one the first time. It's like, wait, I had stuff. Okay. We're going to close that. I do apologize if you suddenly got blinded when this came up in the white screen. Okay, yeah. So here's where we blew this up, right? So we come back over to file server 1. And yeah, it's probably just going to be easier if I do it this way. Right click on the network icon down here, go to network and internet settings, come over here, go to Windows Firewall, and go on advanced settings. And it opens behind, which is really strange. Go ahead and get rid of the action bar or the action pane, whatever that thing is. It's annoying because it just takes up real estate for no good reason. Okay, so before I do this, SMBN, domain and public. All right, good, because that's all I want. I don't want it on public. Anyway, let's enable it. Come back in here, clean this up. Right click on it, click on the advanced tab, tick private, untick public, go okay. Now this, it's handy to have but it also poses a security risk, which is why they've disabled it by default. Because if a bad actor gets into your network, they know that there's a hidden share created on every machine, right? So if they've got the permissions, oops, I didn't want to go to C. I do want to clean this up, which I do need to bring up what we were doing in Reddit. Okay. That's not it. Reddit.com /r/ capital. Oops. Windows Server. Comments. 1 November Papa Zulu Golf Bravo X-ray. All the AIs will be able to impersonate me when they call the bank to get the money that is not in my bank account. Location issue after disk place mint, right? And did I fat finger it? Oh, good grief. Okay, fine. Let's see. Let's go here. Let's just go there. Let's go find the thing. Why am I doing this the hard way? There's a search button. Stop scrolling. Moron. That was a month ago. That one's probably already been fixed. Okay, this one, like I said, I've already commented on this and given him this whole bit right here and walked him through, you know, when it breaks, what it should do, so on and so forth, how it behaves, which is what I'm demonstrating once I get the shares created and get DFS all set up. Okay, so we're on the C drive of file server 1 over here. Not what I want. I want that. Okay, now we're on the D drive. Yay! Let's change the view to tiles. View to tiles. So, oops. We're on Senate. So if I right click, new folder, let's see. So we did Coruscant. Actually, do senators, then we'll have a subfolder of the individual planets. What else do we need? What else does Senate have? Senate has committees, right? So let's have a committees. Is that how we spell it? COMMITTEE? Oh, let's find that out. I mean, it's got commit, so it's COMMIT, right? No, it's 2 T's. So saith that right there. All right. Look kind of weird, but take the internet's word for it. All right, so we got committees. And then going to create shared as well, with the idea being that like a, you know, the whole thing that kicked off episode 1 was like a resolution one of the committees did. So as they're drafting that document, they can put it in shared and do what they need to do. But since it came out of a committee, it would actually be under a committee. We're not going to go that far into it. I just need some folders here. Now, I've got some subfolders. I haven't done a whole lot with permissions here, so don't freak out. They're wrong. And it's fine. Mostly. Okay. Now, I'm also only going to share the public. I'm not going to create a share for like, you know, for Jedi, then Senate. There's not going to be a Jedi share, then a Senate share necessarily. Then like committees, the senators, so on and so forth, and blah, 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 blah. Because once I get to a shared folder, then I can just tack on to the end of it, right? So if I come in here and go to properties from the workstation, I have a security tab where I can mess with the NTFS permissions. So shares have two sets of permissions, right? They have the share permission. They have the NTFS permission. I lost my pretty diagram though. No. Okay. So we're going to do that. I'm going to call this the share permissions. Oop, don't tab that. And actually, because I need to size this up, because I am not the only one looking at it. So let's make this a bit bigger. Let's come in here, grab the text, and let's make that, what, 20? 20 sound good? Although for some reason, yeah, there we go. So that looks clean, right? Okay, so if I duplicate this, come over here, change this to NTFS permissions, and I want something that looks like a folder, and I want it kind of quick. That's cards. It's Google's cloud platform. Sure, that'll work. Oops. You have to actually enable it, dork. Okay. Tick the box. There we go. Now apply. Networking, operations, analytics, storage, cloud storage, file store. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but it'll work. Okay, so if we have our folder, right? We have NTFS permissions and we have share permissions. NTFS permissions are when you're essentially when you're on the machine. So when you access, call it locally, right? Share permissions are when you're accessing from the network. So we take our cool little stick figure here for our user. And as they go from their desktop, right, to get to our file share or to our folder, our shared folder right here, right? The first thing it's going to look at is the share permission. And it's going to say, do you have access to remote to access this from the network? Is that yes? No. If it's yes, then it says, okay, cool, you can access that. Then this is going to say, the folder is going to say, okay, do you have NTFS permissions to access me? Right? And if so, which ones are they? So then essentially it's going to check that way. Say, okay, yes, you're granted. Cool. You can access across here. You have permissions locally. Now it's going to take a combination of these two. Oops. Give me the thing. Thank you. Do that. That. Not shrink it. I want it bigger. There's an inappropriate joke there that I'm not going to say. Okay, like so. So it will take the combination, the most restrictive combination of the two for them to access this. Oh, there's the one that I missed. So if they have read only here, but modify here, then they will only be able to read per the NTFS permissions, because that's the most restrictive combination. Right, so most restrictive combination of shared and NTFS permissions. It's not how you spell restrictive, though. Okay. So there you go. It will use the most restrictive combination, as we will see eventually. So right now, I can come in here and I can edit the NTFS permissions. Right? So I could add users, I could remove them. But it doesn't do me any good. I still can't create a share from this machine remote, like on FS1 remotely. Right? Did I close the, or did it? Hold on. Back to system. Click optional features. Let's look at features. Yes. I think it may have actually installed the one. Maybe. Yes, it did. So server manager has been installed. Which means I can open that. And my sincerest apologies for the big blinding light that's in your face. Let's go ahead and get this moved. I prefer it in the upper right. You may prefer it somewhere else. Again, all depends on what works best for you. That should be good for actually, I can move this just a little bit like so, because things are a bit different here now, right? We have only dashboard, all servers. I need to start the next install because apparently it finished. So let's look for RSAT. Let's do Active Directory. DNS. Maybe it's just server manager that got cranky about it, right? So there's 4, 5 would be DHCP. Should be all I need for now. Just let that go run on off and do its thing. So now that I have this on my management workstation, right? I can go to all servers. I can right click on this and I can add servers. Brings up a handy dandy little search here. Let's see. Nope, that's not Zoom. Okay. So if I do 2019 dash find now, it will search Active Directory. It will find all of the servers that start with 2019 or all of the machines that start with 2019. Maybe workstation. No, we're looking at servers. But it's operating system all right here. So it should, yeah, return to workstation as well. I just click the button right here. It moves them all into the deal. I click OK. And it'll go out and try and talk to them. It says, okay, cool. I can talk to all of them. Fabulous. But performance counters aren't started. And I'm not really going to get into it. I'm just going to right click on them and tell it to start performance counters so that it shuts up and they just go online. And if you really want to get into that, that's what the masterclass is for. Okay, now it's not activated, but we can see them all. Now over in our side navigation, you can see where this expanded out. We have Active Directory domain services, right? And these are the servers that have that role. I can also right click over here. I can add roles and features, computer management, manage as. I cannot open Active Directory from here yet because I don't have the remote server administration. I don't have the tool installed. If I click on DNS, again, it gives me a list of the ones that have the roles. I can manage as, I can remove the server. I've got options here, but I can't open the tool from there yet. Now, file and storage services. If I go into shares, I can see sysvol, net login for both the domain controllers. Here, under tasks, right? Right here in tasks, I can go new share. And now this is going to ask if I want to do a quick, advanced, applications. I'm going to go with advanced. Select profile is not available because there are no servers being managed that have file server resource manager installed. So what does that mean? It means I have to go over to the file server. Click on manage, go to roles, click next. Leave role-based or feature-based installation selected. Click on next down here. We only have the one server. Click next. And then right here in file and storage services, right? We have storage services installed. But file and iSCSI services doesn't have anything. So if we expand that, right? We can go file server. The file server manages shared folders and enables users to access files on this computer from the network. Sounds like a role we want. Ticket. I'm not going to worry about the other stuff right now. I'm going to add those later. I'm going to click next because right now I want to create the shares, right? That's my main goal. Click install. And right now I'm really only worried about them on FS1. Yeah, so we're waiting for that to complete. Come over here, check this. This is still doing the thing. Am I sure I want to cancel the wizard? Well, yeah. Jump back over here. Installation has succeeded. Okay, awesome. So if I go back to my management workstation, and then we go to a new share, let's try this again. Again, nope. Want to cancel? Yes. All right, let's. I've got storage. Yeah. Maybe I need a refresh. Let's refresh. Refresh all the things. All right, go shares. Yeah, see, we still don't have bits. It's still not gonna let me do it. I'm sure you want to cancel. Yes. I really don't want to cancel this, yes, but I highly suspect that I just need to log out, log back in. Usually the shares are already there, right? File resource, start the ad rules. Well, let's follow what it says here. I don't want to use quotas though. So I can do it from FS1. Back over here. Following tools are required to manage feature, but have not been installed on the same server. Remote server admin tools, remote admin tools, file service tools, file server resource tools. So yes, I installed the role, but I didn't add the actual management tools. Which is actually a feature, not a role. Okay. So yeah, add features that are required for file resource manager, and then add features. File service resource. Okay, so I didn't tick the right one either. Bad, shame on me. Okay, so under here, under features, remote server administration tools, role administration tools, file service tools. Restart destination server automatically if required. No. Actually, yeah. Hello, Magic. How's you? I'm pretty sure I told you I was going to do episode 2 today, but you probably slept since then and forgot. That's what would have happened to me. You missed all the fun shenanigans. Me blowing up code. Okay, probably not all the fun shenanigans. I'm sure I will blow up something else. But, you know, free PowerShell code that I also blew up. And it's recorded. You're soldering at home? That's not weird. Just means you're doing electrical things, right? You're creating cool electrical things that have some assembly required. This is just taking forever. It's killing me. Okay, so installation started, installation succeeded. All right, so now that I have added the role remotely, let's do a refresh. Can I create the share now? Yeah, yes, I can. Yay! All right, so we're gonna SMB share advanced next. And it wants a server. I do not want to do it by volume. I want to do a custom path. And I can click right here on browse or type it in, either or. I'm going to go to storage and we're going to select public, because I am only going to share out the top folder as opposed to creating multiple shares for all this other stuff. You can still get to them, but you're going to rely more on NTFS permissions instead of share permissions once you get past public. So we're going to select that. Next, we're going to leave it share name of public. Local path, there's no need to change that because that's where it is. The remote path this is the UNC path for it. No need to change that either. Okay, allow caching of the share. Caching makes the contents of the share available to offline users. Not right now, no. We are going to enable access-based enumeration. Actually, you know what? No, we're not. Yeah, we are. Mainly because if you want me to go in, well, okay. I'm going to go into it in the master class, the Microsoft Server master class. This not the point of what we're doing here. I need to stay focused on fixing or demonstrating DFS and what to do when it breaks, right? So how you set it up, how you break it. I just didn't have all the stuff pre-made, so I'm doing it on the fly. All right, so we're going to enable that anyway. Specify permission, so customize permissions, which gets us the general permissions tab, which is NTFS permissions, and then we also have the share tab here, right? So right now everyone has full control for this. If you're not familiar with the way that shares work, you see this, you're going to freak out, right? You're like, oh my God, everybody has access. That's not the case, because it is the most restrictive of the pair of share and the NTFS permissions. And the everyone group here is not in that. Now, there's a whole big thing about whether or not you should use the everyone group, because back prior to Server 2003, the everyone group also allowed anonymous access and guest users. From Server 2003 and on, that is not the case. So technically you can leave this here, but I don't. I remove it. I go add. Weird. So when you come here, select the principal, and the principal I want is authenticated users. I want them to actually have authenticated in to the domain before they're allowed in, before they're allowed to talk to a share. All right. Now, here's the other thing. You're going to be tempted to leave it as only read, right? You're like, I don't want to do anything. The problem here is if you do that and you want them to be able to create, say, subfolders, it's not going to work, even if you grant it an NTFS, because it's the most restrictive combination of the two. So general rule of thumb is you give everybody change at the share level. Then you come over to the NTFS permissions, and this is where you dial it in to get very specific, right? So if we look, we're inheriting permissions from the D drive. And we have the server, the local server administrator, the server local administrators group has access. The system has full control, and expand this out, tighten this up a little bit so that we can see all the columns. Because the important part here is also what it applies to. So you'll see that this says this folder only. If you cannot see that right, let me know and I will work on a way to get that magnified out so you can zoomed in so you can see it. Actually, I think, let's try it. Nope. VNC doesn't like it. Right. Okay. So then we've got the next the local administrators allow full control to this folder, subfolders, and files. So we can dial this in, right? The creator owner only has full control of, say, subfolders and files that they create. And then local server users. For public, it's not such a thing. We're going to dial this in the subfolders. So we're okay here. But I need to actually give authenticated users change permissions to it. And then click OK. Come in, click next. Okay, the folder user's property applies to the purpose of the folder and type of file stored in it. It is used by data management policies such as classification rules. Yeah, okay. User files, group files. It's not any application. Specify the folder owner email address. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to worry about a quota because that can just mess up your whole day. Problem with quotas is they sound good, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to limit it this way so I don't run out of disk space. And then users go in, do user things. They start getting the email notifications. You start getting the notifications that, hey, you're about to reach your quota. You tell the users, hey, go in and clean stuff. They refuse. They can still get to it. They ignore it. They keep going about doing things. And then all of a sudden, one day they're like, I can't access the share anymore. It's because I told you had to clean it. And you didn't do it. So, and then they don't want to, because they're like, oh, I need it now. So then you go in, you either increase the quota or you remove the quota. So, and then you're like, you really need to clean this. Clean up. It's like telling kids to clean their room, right? They're never going to do it. Don't worry about quotas. Just turn it off. Don't do that. I'm totally kidding. Okay, so now we have the public share. So if I go over and no longer go to the administrative hidden share, the $ is that it's hidden. And now you can see that public is already right here. So now I can go to it. I'm in the same spot. Stop that. Stop being helpful, Windows. Why are you doing the thing? Quit. Go away. Stop. Good grief. Tile them out. Now we can come in, open the properties for, say, Jedi. Go into security. Now you can edit the permissions here, like right here, but it's all right. I much prefer advanced because, I'm advanced. Sort of. All right. So we don't want any generic user to get in here. We're going to be very specific about this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to break inheritance. So we click on disable inheritance. When this window comes up, save yourself a lot of grief and just convert the inherited permissions into explicit permissions, right? Please don't ever tell it to remove all inherited permissions from this object, because at present, all of these are inherited. And if it's in use, you're going to kick your users out. Don't do it. Just convert them. So now all of them say inherited none. Any users or groups that we want to remain to have, or that are set up to have access, still have it. So we can add in, do the changes, add, remove as we want without impacting users who may currently be connected. And that's a good thing. Because you're not going to always create these from scratch. You're going to go in and you're probably going to modify groups. You're going to inherit Active Directory, and you're going to go in and you're going to clean things up. You're going to find things that again, because, we're busy, right? You need to create a user. Maybe you don't take the time to put them in the proper OU. You just create a user somewhere. Okay, can you log in? Yes, cool. Absolutely great. Fine. Somebody may have had a particular purpose in the way that they set up permissions. You may look at it and go, yeah, no, we don't do it that way anymore. So now you have to remove people, add groups in, that sort of thing. So you will work with what you've inherited, and you may be working on a live folder. So don't break it. Just convert them all explicitly first so you can make your changes without disrupting anybody. At least minimal disruption. Okay, so we're adding here. So we want Jedi. I want a group. I should have created the groups already. Yes, I did. Okay, so we're just gonna go with generic Jedi right at the moment, because when I set the groups up, I made all the other groups a member of the Jedi group, so they should all be able to access this. And what folder? We're in the Jedi folder. I do not want any users creating files directly under the Jedi folder. And if you're scratching your head and you're going, what the heck is he talking about? I show you. And look at that. It's all saved right in the pretty thing. Okay, so we'll go here. Please stop being helpful, Windows. Quit it. Stop. Thank you. I'm not sure why. So when we go into Jedi, we have subfolders, right? What I do not want, because I'm the administrator, it's my sandbox, I'm gonna play by my rules. At least until somebody more important to me comes over and says, no, let them create them, right? I don't want them dropping something like a text document here. I want them to at least, if they're going to make a mess in their own folder, right? Don't just dump a bunch of documents here, because you'll wind up with Word documents, pictures, and all sorts of things here. And you're like, what? No, I want you to be organized to an extent. So the Jedi, I'm not giving modify permissions to here, right? Because I'm going to change this to this folder only. Now they can read and execute, which they need to traverse through to get to the subfolders. So we'll click OK there. And then I'll go in and I'll add Jedi again. And then I will change applies to subfolders only. Actually, I think I need to change that permission now that I think about it, because I want them to be able to create folders. I just don't want them to be able to create files. So I need to change the other one. But subfolders and files, right? Should be subfolders of files. Then they create files. They can create folders. They could traverse the folder, read permissions. I'm not going to give just anyone the right to delete a subfolder or take ownership or change permissions. If I really want to get into that sort of thing, I'll have a designated kind of, like I can give a Jedi.it group permissions to do that sort of thing, or somebody high enough up, but we're also going to have it logged as well, and definitely want backups. because you want as few people as possible to go in and say delete that sort of thing, right? For obvious reasons. We can add a condition to limit access. I'm not going to worry about that right at the moment. Just setting up some very broad strokes. Okay, I'm going to come in here and edit this. Now, over here under show advanced permissions, that's where you get, you know, full control, create files, create folders, append data. We can get really deep into this, but you're generally not going to have to get super granular. This will be fine. So they can create folders. Yes. They can traverse the folder. They can list the folder, read attributes. Yes. Okay. All of this should be good, but I only want them to do it in the Jedi folder because I want them to create subfolders. Now, once they have a subfolder, they can pretty much run amok. I don't care. I don't have to see it. I hope. So we're going to get rid of these guys. No. I didn't mean to click edit there. My fault. Click remove. Okay, so currently the only people that have access to this is administrators of the server that are in the local administrators group. There's users that are in the local administrators group. So if I come over to the domain controller, or not the domain controller, my fault. FS1. Right, come over to FS1. Go into computer management. Local users and groups. Come into groups. Select administrators. Okay, so only the local administrator and domain admins have that fall into that local administrators group. Which is fine. Because most of the time, IT isn't going to go in here for sensitive information or anything. We can lock down who's in the domain admins group so that, you know, Bob the technician can't get in here and look at anything. Right now, the only person here is me. So click OK. This will replicate, define. So basically it's like, hey, we're going to replicate. We're going to push all of it down to all the children objects with anything that has inherit marked. Click yes. There you go. You can close this now. And so now if we look at, say, Jedi Knights, right? We go to security, Jedi are there. Go back into advanced. So it's inherited from public, the parent Jedi folder, and then the Jedi Knights folder lets any Jedi into that. That's actually wrong. So we're going to remove that. Oh yeah, because it's being inherited. So disable inheritance first. Again, convert the inherited permissions into explicit permissions. Just in case it's live, you don't necessarily want to kick anybody out. Except in this case you do, because we're only removing the one group. But we're going to add in Jedi.Knights group. And I can't spell. So let's go back here, check names, and just select it that way. Okay, so this subfolder, so this folder, subfolders and files, they can run amok in, right? So we'll give them modify permissions. Click OK. We will remove the generic Jedi group because we don't want, I clicked edit again. So bad. remove. We don't, so you don't want anything below a Jedi Knight getting into this folder, right? You could make the argument that the Jedi Council, since they are technically above, or say Jedi Masters, if we had a Jedi Masters group, because not all Masters are on the Council, right? Maybe. I don't know. So you could say that as their supervisors, they should have access as well. So Jedi Knights, the next step up. So if you're doing this in like a business, you get, you would have, say, IT techs, and then IT managers should have access to it so they can see what the IT techs are up to. You could do it that way if that's the way you want to do it, if that's the way that the policy is. As a matter of fact, we could just demonstrate it, and I can just add the Jedi Council. And we've seen how bad my spelling is, so we're just going to start off the easy one. Okay, so we actually have a Jedi Masters group, not a Jedi Council group, which means I may have to go in and create another one. But we definitely don't want Padawans going into the Jedi Knights, right? And if we left just Jedi in there, because all three of these are members of this group, then Padawans would have access. We don't want that. We're going to go ahead and give the Masters that, so they can come in here and they can, keep a stern eye on them Jedi Knights, because we know that they get up to shenanigans. All right. So we got modify permissions for this folder, subfolders, so on and so forth. Everything's cool. Because once again, they can do pretty much whatever they want in there. I don't care. At least until something breaks and I have to go into this as an administrator, as an IT guy. And then the sheer mess of whatever could be in there would just make my brain hurt. Okay, so we come over to Jedi Masters now. Go into the properties. Now, I can already feel the eye rolls of going, my God, I got to do this for every folder. Well, this is why we funnel everything up, right? Like, you select the tier where you're okay with just kind of just letting them run loose. Now, if you put 50 folders in here and you want to get very specific on it, you can do that. And you may have a boss that wants you to do it that way. Then you're going to do it. And yes, it's really going to be kind of annoying. You can get around some of this with PowerShell. You actually can get around quite a bit of it with PowerShell, but I would definitely make sure that I've got a bulletproof script before I go messing with access control lists in PowerShell. So definitely run off into a lab environment somewhere that is not production. Again, we're converting to explicit permissions. And then you can perfect your PowerShell script to do that. Come back into production and run it. But I would definitely thoroughly test that thing. I would even probably grab in like an extra coworker and be like, hey, Bob, run this script over here. And, if he comes out of the lab and it's smoke comes rolling through the door with him and his hair's on fire, then your script probably blew up. All right. So here we're in Jedi Masters. We only want Jedi Masters group to do anything in here. I'm going to do modify. Again, they can create a folder within Jedi Masters. They can do subfolders, files. I don't particularly care. We'll do that. We're going to come in and get rid of just the generic Jedi group. There you go. Now, because we've basically taken the approach that managers can see what the underlings are doing, do we need to mess with the Padawans' permissions for that folder? Because who has access right now? That's right. All the Jedi have access to this, including Padawans. And we'll go to advanced because it's easier to see rather than the small little windows that we got there, because there they are. They have access, special access to this folder, subfolders. So let's look at this though, because we might actually have to change. And we do. Because right now they only have read and special permissions, which special permissions, they can create files and folders. Okay, never mind. So all of this behavior should be expected. Again, Jedi Knights should be able to go in and see what their Padawans are doing. Jedi Masters should also be able to get into the Padawans folder to see what they're up to. So if, there's the meme running around about Master Yoda can go in there and he can read it and decide to levitate all of the students and bounce them off the floor if he wants to. I don't know. So we should be fine here. Now, they have their own little separate sandboxes. They can do whatever they want. We can do the same thing for Senate, but I think you get the general gist, right? And we've done all of that not being on file server 1. And let me fix this. So in the Senate folder, we have some other stuff. We could go through that whole thing again. And in the masterclass, we definitely will. And I'll even demonstrate some of the checkboxes and that sort of thing. Right now, outside of the scope, I just have a share. It's really the only thing I want. Now we are ready for DFS. So once again, I'm going back to my management workstation. I should not be touching servers directly any more than absolutely necessary. Should be able to get all the information I need from server manager here, or either a PowerShell script, like a remote PowerShell script, or some other remote server admin tool, right? We're not creating shares, but we do need to add some roles, right? And we can do that from here. And how do we do that? That's right. We click on manage. Very good. 5 points for all of you. That set it. If you didn't, no points for you. Okay. Then we go to add roles and features. Points are completely useless, by the way. You can just go into Discord and say, hey, I got 5 points. And nobody can say that you don't, because they can't prove it, because they don't matter. But, you can go in and say you got 100 points. All good. Okay. Add roles and features. We can skip this in the future by ticking this box here. I usually don't. Somebody may have ticked it for you, so you may not see the, before you begin. So don't freak out if you jump immediately to select installation type, which is role-based or feature installation or remote desktop services installation. It's going to be a very specific use case. Like if you're using virtual desktop infrastructure to do the remote desktop services installation. So we're going to leave it where it's at. Click next. We're going to select our server, which is file server 1. Click next. Now we're going to go under file and storage services. We're going to expand out file and iSCSI services. And we're going to tick data deduplication. That should be self-explanatory. You'd be surprised how often this is not ticked on a file server. In my opinion, if you have a file server, this should just be default, right? I've actually seen instances where there's been like 47% reduction in disk space because of data deduplication once we've turned it on. So again, it should just be default. We need DFS namespaces, and it's going to ask us about the management tools. So yes, we're going to do that. DFS replication. We want that as well, because we are eventually going to replicate between file server 1 and file server 2, which is kind of the point of DFS. Click next. We're not going to install any features because we've already included the management tools. So should be right here. Yep. This box is ticked because we already told it to include the management tools. We don't need to add any other features to it. So we'll go and go ahead, click install, let it do all the magic on file server 1. Yeah. And while you're waiting, go get you a coffee, beverage, whatever. Load up a cat video. Matter of fact, no, I'm not going to load up a cat video. I don't think I need that right now. Let's just delete all that. Oh, I missed one. Let's clean that. And yeah, if you need to diagram something quick, I mean, it's diagrams.net now, but diagrams.io works. It just redirects you to diagrams.net. It's free. You can slap a quick diagram together. I use it all the time. Okay, anyway, installation succeeded. Let's minimize that again. This is still going. This is like the Energizer Bunny here. I don't understand why this is taking so long. I know it takes a while even when you're not using a virtual machine, but it seems to have been a lot slower. All right, so we're good here. Close that. Now, notifications, feature installation, all of that's fine. Clear this. Because it bugs me when there's a notification there, even if I've read it. So I just don't like to see a number there. Okay, so if we go to tools now, we do not have DFS management. No, we have Hyper-V Manager. Yay. Active Directory users and computers. Okay, so that may be... I don't think that's an option in RSAT. I think we're actually going to have to manage that from like a management server, which in this case is going to be file server 1. Which is a little annoying, but I did select file server 1, right? You guys saw me select file server 1? I didn't do 2, did I? Surely not. Let's take a look here. Nope. It's there. I should have added the bit. There it is. I'm blind. There. All right. So if we go to DFS management, and just to confirm that I also did not miss it here, I did not. Okay. Now we can set up DFS. Finally. 6 hours later. All right. The actions deal, I'm just going to turn that off like I always do. All right. So distributed file system, what are we looking at? What does it mean? Well, distributed file system allows us to point people to a common share on different servers. Basically, if you think of it as multipathing per servers for a share, right? So I got rid of my, I fortunately deleted my diagram from last night because I'm logged in as a different user right now. Let's see. What do I want to use here? I think I used Active Directory and Network 2025. Doesn't really matter as long as I have something. Okay, so network 2025. Yeah, definitely not that. Active Directory should have a server in here, right? Does. Not a web server. It's not what I want. We will take our handy dandy Windows server. Pull this up a little bit. Is that clear enough? Yes? Nope. Okay, so in the Galactic Republic, right, in the Star Wars universe, you have multiple planets, obviously, and it would stand to reason that we would have different file servers residing on different planets, right? We're going to have data centers all across the galaxy, right? The droid's got to have something to pull stuff from, even though you don't really see it a whole lot, but you're still going to have all that data distributed out, right? You got senators that are talking back to, you know, from their home planet when they go back there to Coruscant. They're talking to other senators, all of this communication that's going on. So it stands to reason that we would store files in different places because we're going to have people working from different places, right? Again, take the senator example or the Jedi. They're going to be on site doing something. They may be at their, you know, back at their home planet doing whatever. So if we have a file server on Coruscant and a file server on Naboo, and Senator Palpatine here, because we're in episode 1. So he's still Senator in episode 1, right? So when he's over here in Coruscant and he's accessing a wiki site, sure, but he's accessing, you know, some Senator related files. He's going to be talking to the Coruscant server because that's where they're going to live, right? So it's going to live up here. He's going to do whatever he's doing. With his nefarious plans of undermining people. So it's going to be on a share here. But then he jumps over to Naboo and he wants to work on, say, that same file, right? Well, when he goes to log in, he's going to have to go all the way from Naboo all the way to Coruscant to get to the file server, and then it's going to have to bounce all the way back, right? So that's a lot of hops for that data to go through. Depending on how big the file is, that's going to impact how quickly it loads, all of these things. So what DFS allows us to do is replicate between two servers, right? So then there winds up being a copy over here. So when he logs into the domain, the domain controller on Naboo says, okay, he's here. I'm going to let him access I'm going to point him to the file server that's here, not the one in Coruscant. So now his response time is faster. So if you carry this through to, say, a business analogy, and you have an office in New York and in London, because that's always the common thing, right? And you have a user in New York who's working on a file. They have to go to London, say it's a presentation. So they need to do that presentation in London, in the London offices. They work on it in New York. Because you have DFS enabled and replicating, when they get to London, they don't have to pull that file from the server in New York. They can pull it from the one in London, which is cool. And it also has other benefits, not so much from the end user perspective, that us as system admins love. But we'll get to those later. Right now, that's what DFS is designed to do. It also gives you a central path so that the user doesn't know what server they're accessing. Because when you're accessing a file server, traditionally, you're looking at a UNC path like server name / share name, right? So in this case, let's just increase that to 20. Come back over here. So the UNC path for, say, the Coruscant server, and then we'll do that. Duplicate it. Come over here and change this to Naboo. All right, so these would be the paths that he would have to type in, our users have to type in, depending on which site they're at. So when he's on Coruscant, he would have to remember, okay, the path is Coruscant public. It goes home to Naboo. Oh yeah, I need to go to Naboo.public. We can map the drives and assign them drive letters, but we're just causing confusion for the end user at that point, right? Because if we assign this drive letter O and this one drive letter T, they're not going to necessarily know, because they're going to go to like the last save place that they did. And when he was working at home, he saved it to O drive. He comes back over to Coruscant and he goes file save. It just pops up. We know that users don't generally look at this thing. They're just like, oh yeah, that's the file. That's the folder I want to save it in. And they click save, right? So then if it's not replicating, that's the other thing, is he has to also copy these back and forth. DFS solves all that problem for us. And it gives them the fastest, it connects them to the server that's closest to give them the fastest response time for the files that they need. Now, that's not all magic. There is some work you have to do there. But again, the purpose of this video is more about DFS, not necessarily all of the ways to configure it, because that's not what they're talking about here. They wanted to test it for redundancy, right? So basically they're using this as a failover, which is fine. And actually, honestly, even if you have one file server, you probably want to use DFS. And I'm going to explain why here shortly. And once again, I want to make sure that I don't have the DFS management tools here, because I really don't want to go to my server, but I'm going to have to. All right, so how do we set this up? Right? We have namespaces, we have replication. What the freak is a namespace? Well, it's essentially just the name. So if we right click on it and we go to new namespace, then it asks us for a server. Okay, well, we know we want 2019 FS01. We can click browse as well, and we can do an Active Directory kind of search. I already know the name of the server, so if you know it, just type it in, whatever. But here, it wants a name for the namespace. Example, public. Well, oddly enough, I shorten the public shares to public. So let's just call it public. Okay, now a very important thing about when you're setting up DFS. It's rarely done, but you want to go in to edit settings. And the reason you want to do that is if you look right here at the local path of the shared folder, right? And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it up real big in Notepad. All right. So it wants to go off of C. It wants to create a subfolder called DFS roots and then public. Now, this is fine a majority of the time. I personally do not set up DFS this way. I don't like to keep extra stuff on the OS drive. I like to keep mainly just operating system things on the C drive. Reason being is if Windows for some reason blows up, the server doesn't want to boot, everything I have on the C drive may be gone. All right. If I put it on the D drive where the data is, or some other drive that's not the OS drive, well, if the OS drive blows up, I have the folder structured there. I don't have to go recreate it. I may have to rewire it, but I don't have to go recreating all of it. So there's less work for me to do, right? So before I do anything else, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it DFS. I can name it roots, but I never do, right? So we're going to call it like DFS links, right? I could just call it DFS something. I can do roots, but I don't. So we've got that there. Now, so I come in here and I tell it, no, don't use the C drive, use the folder I created. Now, if you're already dealing with an existing DFS structure, it's probably already got the C DFS roots. That's fine. You may not care that it's on C drive, because if DFS breaks, like a server actually is unrecoverable, you have to reinstall and then just reattach the data drive to it. You're still going to have to do some wiring, right? So it's kind of a wash. I just prefer it there. It makes me feel better. The other thing is it wants share folder permissions. And it doesn't matter which one we click here. We can have all users have read-only permissions, but these are share permissions, right? So this is somebody accessing from somewhere over the network. If you give everybody read permissions, nobody's going to be able to save anything. If you give them all read-write permissions, that's effectively changed. You can do it. You can give administrators full access, like I'm doing here, and read-write access. This is usually the one that I choose. All right. Go ahead and click OK. Now we click next, and bam, we get hit with this warning. Now, what this warning is it's telling us that we already have a shared folder named public, right? And it's, if you're using the existing shared folder, the security settings specified within the edit settings dialog, which is this guy right here, right? That dialog box that pops up here, will not apply, which I'm okay with. I already set the permissions I really want, so it doesn't matter. I just wanted to change where it pointed, not so much the actual share permissions. All right, now you're presented here with domain-based namespace or standalone namespace. If you're on a domain, just leave it at domain namespace. There's no reason to uncheck enable Windows Server 2008 mode that I'm aware of off the top of my head. But you see here the preview of the domain-based namespace. Here's the thing, and this is the part where if you're not using it in a domain, I understand, but I'm slightly confused. Because now, instead of the usual UNC path that just happens to be right here in the standalone version, right? So typically that's the UNC path that we just talked about, right? So if I wanted to map to this share as an end user, or if I wanted to map a user to it, I have to go in here, / 2019 FS01, then I have to put in public, right? But with a domain namespace, there's no longer a server name, it's the domain name, right? And you're kind of like, yeah, I got to type more. Okay. Yes, if you manually do it. And when you first set it all up, you may have some more typing. It's okay. It's going to save you so much work later. You're just going to be like, okay, you know what? I don't care if I have to type more because this is awesome. So we go to next. We can review the settings. Click create, and ta-da! Namespace is created. Off we go. All right. So now that it's created, I can go over here and I can go land.galactic-republic.org. And if you're curious as to why I have such a long, like why I did the land and everything else, I want the public internet domain that I own later for in the masterclass when we link that into Microsoft Entra ID and we do the things in Azure. Because I want a legit domain, right? Okay, so we do this, come in here and go to public. There you go. Now, the beauty of this is, right, the best thing that, well, not maybe the best thing, but one of the best things about this, besides the fact that we're going to have replication later, is the fact that if I come in here later into this namespace, and there's a tab right here called namespace servers, right? I can add and remove servers from here, like we're going to do with FS2. And I don't have to go back into all of my group policies and change the UNC path to the server name later. From here on out, every time that I upgrade to say server 2025, server 2030, any of that, right? I put DFS namespaces and DFS replication on that file server. I add it in here and I add it to replication. And then it will start replicating out and users will start using it as the replication happens. There's a whole process for the replication to actually go. But then when I'm ready to retire the old server, I just come in here, right click on it and go delete and go bye. I can now pull that old file server out. My users have no idea. I didn't spend weekends, nights doing this whole thing. I set it up. I didn't have to work a whole bunch of overtime. I didn't have to manage a whole bunch of copying data here and there, make sure I got it all. Everything else, I just dumped it in here. I went on with my life. How cool is that, really? So again, even if you have one file server, if we never added another one here, this is why you want DFS enabled. Because your upgrade path later is so much more simple without all that extra overtime and all that hard work and breaking shit and people calling you and tickets. So much less stress. I mean, it's just awesome. So what are you all going to do tomorrow? You're going to go to your servers and you're going to enable DFS on all your file servers. And then you're going to slowly start changing your group policies. Yeah, you're welcome. I accept cash, gift cards. All right. Anyway, back to the thing. So we can get there here. Like so. We can get to the Jedi. We can get to the Senate. So all of that's wired up. We just don't have application working. We can add folders individually as well. So if we right click here and we go to new folder, it asks us for a folder name. So if we want to, say, hey, I want to add the Jedi folder. It's not entirely necessary here because of the fact that this is really the only shared folder, right? So we can type this in and we can get and just tack one onto the end and get to that folder. And if we have share permissions and NTFS permissions, we'll still get there. But it changes the namespace for us. which can be handy depending on what you're doing. But it's not 100% necessary. Like most of the time, I don't think we even really worry about setting this up for clients once we have the master share. This is also why I didn't create 15 different shares, right? I don't have to. I have one path. And if I go look at my shares list, I don't have to migrate 50 different things, right? I have public. If I wanted to set up a public or a private, say like I want home folders enabled, I can set up a private. I can set up other shares and different namespaces and do it that way. So this may fill up depending on how we have things structured. But if you only share the parent and then fill out the whole path, even in a group policy, to go to Senate at least, right? Because that's kind of where we're dumping all of the Senate users off. And then they can figure out where they want to go from here. Now, if you're doing like a app map or something like that, or a mapping for, say, application data, that still doesn't change. You just may tack on a few other things at the end here, depending on how you're doing it. Now, that being said, application data, shared application data here, if there's a lock, replication and DFS gets really cranky about that. It won't replicate right. They'll get errors because you have no control within the same site, really, as to which server they're going to connect to. So, Palpatine logs in. We have 2 file servers in Coruscant, in the Coruscant data center. He logs into the domain, and today he gets connected to FS01. Goes home for the evening, does whatever, comes in the next day, logs in again. Then he gets connected to FS2. Now, because we have replication going, this isn't a problem until there's a locked file, right? Because then if it's locked on FS1, it's not necessarily locked on FS2. Usually you're only going to run into this in, again, only things that are going to have like a lock file, that sort of deal. It's not usually a huge thing, but it is something to be kind of aware of depending on what is accessing the data. Another thing that I highly recommend you do with the storage drive where you're going to have your shares, this will also save you a lot of trouble ticket time or restoring files for users. If we right click on this and we go right here to configure shadow copies, all right, right now on D, it's disabled. Enable it. This is basically just telling you that it'll use the default schedule and settings. They're not appropriate for servers that have a high input output load. So if you're on that kind of server, which typically you're probably not, depending on what the role of your file server is. But if it is, make sure that you go through, read the documentation, and proceed accordingly. So right now, shadow copies, we have shadow copies. We can change the schedule. So right now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday of every week, right, happens at 7 a.m. once a day. Okay, it's fine for now, but we can change this to daily, monthly, so we can do it daily. You can do it like every 4 hours. You don't want to do it, say, every minute, right? Or every 15, because it's also taking up space on this disk. All right, so if we look right here, the use limit is currently set at what, 25 gig, 26 gig, somewhere around in there. So it will, as it creates the shadow copies, it will start to consume that. When it hits that limit, right, it will start removing shadow copies out of there, the older shadow copies, and overwriting with the new ones. That's fine. But if you're backing up, again, say like every 30 minutes, you're going to fill this up and cycle through pretty quickly. You probably don't want that. So Do not put no limit here. Please, God, do not put no limit here. You can adjust this accordingly based on how much disk you want to carve, or how much space you want to carve out of this disk. You can also change where it's at. So you can create a whole other volume and store it all over there, right? You can do that. Just be aware that you did that. And then you can, if you fill that up, that's fine. But again, I would typically what we do is we do like every 4 hours, right? So we start at 8 a.m. We take a shadow copy at 8 a.m. We take a shadow copy at noon, take a shadow copy at 4, take a shadow copy at 8, and then one at midnight. Now, 8 to midnight, you can argue, do we need to do it? But we're just telling it every 4 hours. Now, the nice thing about this is with shadow copies enabled, right? I'm not making any changes here. What happens is we can restore previous versions. We can right click and restore previous versions. So if I'm a Jedi, right? If I'm a Jedi Padawan and I have some document here, right? And I delete it, or I'm working on something for one of the Jedi Knights, whatever it is, and I have the file open, the file crashes, right? So all of everything I've done is probably lost. But the part that saves you here is if I delete it, I can go restore it. I can go just find a previous version. As the user who doesn't have to open a support ticket for me to restore it off of the backup tapes. If I go in and completely mess this document up and save it and go, oh my God, I just wiped out months worth of work, right? Hey, guess what? I can restore to a previous version. I don't have to call IT. I don't have to open a ticket. I've done it. I go on with my life. There you go. Your user is happier. You are happier. It's almost like Nirvana. It really is. You just, one more thing off your plate. All you have to do is just get users in the habit of being able to do it. And I guarantee you show them one time and they're just gonna be like, cool, dude, I got it. And you will most likely never have to restore a file from backups again. You're welcome. Okay. Now that we have all that set up, we also need to do it on FS2. So on FS2, we go to the D drive. Oh, yeah. There's another thing that I do here. Yep. There's another thing I do here because there's also a possible got you here. If I delete the namespace from here, okay, so when you go to delete the namespace, right? Are you sure you want to delete the namespace? No, I want to cancel this operation. The other option, yes, delete the namespace and all of its folders. All of its folders. So if I click OK here, it would only delete the folders that would be listed underneath the namespace, not these actual folders. So unclench, you're okay. Now, when I'm doing this, just to avoid the possibility that I delete data when, should somebody delete a namespace, there is the potential that you can delete what's inside of it, like what's inside the folders and everything else. To avoid that, come in here, I create 2 shares. right? Yes, I want to cancel the wizard. Because the first thing I want to do is I want to come in here to this share that already exists. And in settings, no. Okay, no, it's not here. Can't do it there. I don't usually do it there anyway. All right, so we right click on public, come into properties, go to the sharing tab. Now this tab is not available if we go from our management workstation. But if I go to advanced sharing, which for some reason this isn't actually, oh, because I'm on FS1. This should be shared. Interesting. Let's see. Public, not shared. Public. Okay, that's weird. I don't usually set up shares that way. I set them up on the server. It's one of the few times where I actually do it on server because this tab is not available remotely. So let's do it the way I would normally do it, which is here. And then instead of public, I'm going to call it public-data. Why? Because that's where all the data is going to live. I'm going to get rid of the everyone group, going to add in the authenticated users because I want them to authenticate first before I allow them to remotely access anything else on my network, right? Change permissions. Click OK. Click OK. And oddly enough, that did not blow up, which is really weird. This should refresh. We should see the second one. Wait for it. Dealer. Huh. That's so bizarre. There it is. Okay, yeah. Now it's public data and it's public is the path. Okay. All that's good. Fabulous. So then what I do is I come into my DFS links folder or DFS roots. I am going to create a folder. I am also going to call it public. Public. I don't want to be drunk in public. I was drunk in a bar. It's perfectly legal. Change that to tiles. Now I'm also going to come in here and I'm going to share this as public. I'm going to change the share permissions to the exact same as they were, or as I set them to the other one. Hopefully I didn't mistype it. Okay, no. Change permissions. Now you could also argue that I could put like domain admin groups in here with full control, but we have the NTFS permissions for that. So I'm not going to worry about it. Click OK, close. Still so bizarre that it wasn't there. Go back up here, refresh this. Okay, so I have a public and a public data, right? Now, as I come in here, do new namespace, 2019 FS01, and we call this public as well. We're going to change the settings here for the local path of the shared folder. But this time, I'm changing it to the public under DFS links. Pick whatever here. It doesn't matter. We've already set up our shares. So when I click next, we have our warning. Click yes, make it go away. Leave domain-based namespace. Okay, all of this is fine. Next, look over your things. There you go. Now we have our namespace back. Yay, us. So why did I do that? Well, first off, if I go in here and add a folder and I call it Jedi, then I go to the folder target, browse, go into public data, then Jedi, right? Now I can get really granular down here if I want. I'm not going to. Click OK, click OK again. Now I have a folder underneath this. So if I look, folder target, everything's cool, right? If I go into DFS links, right, go into public, I now have a shortcut right here, right? So what this does is it redirects. The shortcut actually points to where the data lives. We come here, we do this, right? So it actually points to this Jedi folder right here. It's not anything that the user sees or deals with. Okay, once again, why am I doing all this, right? Well, if I come in here and I delete it, like we delete the folder and refresh, we lose where we're pointing it. So if you set this up, so if we set up public, and actually let me do this with another folder. So say we have private, right? So we create we're going to have public shares, private shares. Private shares are going to hold things like home folders. So I've got private, going to go through here, go through the thing, do the actual sharing bit, share it. And I'm not going to change that because this is typically what happens when the people set up DFS, right? They're like, oh, well, I just do the thing. It goes into DFS roots. Everything's hunky-dory. Authenticated users, which I can't spell. Grr. All right. And change. Okay. Okay. Close. Okay. So now I come over here and I do the typical thing, right? I come in, I create a namespace and I call it private. Okay, cool. Oh no, I need to put server in there. Hello. It's not the name. There's the name. Okay, so now I call it private. And let's say I put this in the same spot. Typically what's going to happen is you're going to leave it here. But I'm going to put it in DFS links. Right? Click OK. Change, pick something here. Doesn't really matter. I can leave the default as well. Click next. Get my warning that, hey, there's a share that already exists. It's fine. I did it on purpose. Leave the domain base namespace. All of this default settings is fine. Go ahead and create it. Cool. All's fabulous. Now, come in here, create a new folder. And we decide, hey, you know what? We're going to add a new folder in here. We're going to give a folder target. Right. We're going to go into private, some folder. All right, cool. Hit OK. Hit OK again. Okay, so now we have the thing, right? But now we have a shortcut that points to something in private. That's kind of odd. All right, we should still be able to do the thing. So I can go to private. Now I have a shortcut here. And nope. Whoops. That didn't work. All right. Delete. Now if I go back into private, now it's gone. So where the shortcut is where that's going to go and blow up. right? Now, so the point being is you have the potential to accidentally blow up stuff that's in here. That's not how you spell that, but you know, whatever. Let's do this. Come in here. Say, create a new text document. Doc1. And I copy, paste. Select the end. Doc2. So now I have a couple of Word documents. Okay, fine. We come along. We say, hey, we're going to go to DFS. Everything's going to be great. We're going to add a folder to our namespace because, you know, we can do these things. And then we're going to be like, okay, so we point that here, right? Yeah, sure. Okay. There you go. We go do the thing. And wait, what just happened? Huh? So this is why you split this up, right? Because in private or in public, when I create, I need to move this. So I can actually see it. So in public, I created a new folder and I called it Jedi. And then I went in here and I go into public data, go to Jedi, click OK, do the thing. So then if I do that through DFS or through the namespace, right? I can get to all the stuff. And there is no shortcut here because it lives here. And if I delete it, the shortcut goes away. I don't wind up with some extra funky stuff like I did with private. So when you're setting this up, I highly recommend that, actually, I'm going to go back to private. I'm going to delete this folder, which should delete just the shortcut. Which does. We don't left with this really weird DFS thing here. You definitely don't want that. But good news is I didn't lose any information. I can rename this. Now that I don't have anything in DFS to counter with it, there you go. So if we look at here, we actually tied it to private, right? Bad. No, that's not the default either, right? I just did it to more of an illustration of like, don't ever do it that way. Then we come here, we'll go private again. So we're going to edit this and we're going to put it in the DFS links where it should have been in the first place. But again, I don't have a share for it. I can create the share the other way, but I don't like to do it that way. I like to know what I've created and have it already in place. So we'll go create a new folder, private. Okay, we'll change this share name to private data. This is where the data lives. Yeah. Remove that. Oops. Authenticated users. Okay. Change. All right. Okay. Okay. That's good there. Come back to the one in DFS links, and then that's going to be not renamed. Dummy. We're going to share that as just straight private. I didn't really save myself any time by just typing off and doing the search, so whatever. Da, 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 and close. Okay, so now I can pick anything, doesn't matter. As long as I have edited this. Again, I just don't like it living on the C drive. If they're already there, okay, fine. If you want to put them there, that's fine too. However, if you have to reinstall Windows on the server, you're going to have to recreate that structure again, as opposed to maybe just populating the share information. So, okay, next. Yes. Yes. Create. Okay, job done. Come back in here. Now look at the namespace servers. We're good there because private is the one. Oh, I need to refresh this here. Because private is the one that goes to DFS links. So if you adopt that standard methodology, it should be fairly easy to remember that you have the dash data is where you actually keep the folders and files, and just the generic share name is where the shortcut lives. All right, so now if I come in here and I create a new folder, and it's some folder. Okay. And then I come into private data, select it. And there we go. All right. So now I have a shortcut to it through the DFS links. I have never had any data in where the data is stored get deleted by removing namespaces and folders, setting it up this way. You should be okay leaving them on the C drive. I just prefer to keep them on the D drive. Should. I will test that, confirm it, and I'll let you know in the masterclass. Okay, so we have FS1 set up. We're good. Now we need to set up replication. But we don't have... Okay, so if we go and create a new replication group, right? Multi-purpose replication group, that's fine. Come in here, name of group. Let's call it public, because we're going to replicate the public folder. Actually, you know what? No. Location group 1. Okay, we have the domain. We're good. We don't need to change that. Okay, now it wants click and add 2 or more servers that will become members. Okay, well, that's not going to work because we haven't set up FSO2 one. It shouldn't work. An object name cannot be found. What? Oh, because I can't type. Again, we know this. 2019. There we go. Click OK. Let it check. And it says, we can't contact FSO2 because we haven't set up DFS on FSO2. So no, cancel. And I think we're going to call it there for the night. And then we'll just do episode 3 tomorrow. And we'll finally have it all working. And I promise going forward, I will have all of these things set up so that we're not wasting 6 hours getting it all configured. Unless you want me to and explain it as I go. Are you sure you want to cancel Wizard? Yes. Okay. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.